subscribers, and I just want to say welcome. I'm Kayla. I'm an early years childminder, although not childminding at the moment because of the coronavirus. I share lots of different activities around kind of Montessori and a child-led approach. We love the respectful parenting approach, so I talk a little bit about that. And anything kind of toddler related really. I'm all consumed in the toddler world, so anything to do with toddlers I tend to talk about on my channel. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy my videos. So today's video is part 2 of the self-isolation activities for toddlers. I did do one 4 or 5 days ago. I hope to do another one only a few days after that, but I didn't really get around to it, so I'm really sorry this is a bit late coming. But today's kind of theme is going to be sensory activities. So I'm going to share with you some Montessori inspired sensorial activities. So sensory activities build on a child's senses. So they help to refine a child's 5 senses. You can use or present different activities to work on different senses. So I'm going to be sharing some visual activities, some using sense of touch, sense of smell, auditory. So hopefully you find it interesting and helpful. All of the activities I'm going to share today are things that you can easily set up at home. I don't like to kind of offer really expensive resources and recommend those types of things that you have to buy, because I think you can easily make DIY activities which serve a very similar purpose and can be equally as beautiful when they're presented in the right way in your play space. So I've got some DIY activities which you can make really easily with things around the home. Some of them I've whipped up in literally about 3 minutes. Get a pair of scissors, a bit of glue, and you're there. There's some other resources I'm gonna recommend which you can buy really easily from places like Amazon, who are still delivering, because I know we're a bit limited on where we can go to get things, so I don't want to put you in a difficult position where I'm recommending something that you're just never going to get hold of at the moment. So they're all things that you can do whilst you're isolated really, really easily.
Video now.
You want to do your video now?
Yeah.
Do you? What's your video going to be about?
My nephew.
You love me?
My video.
So this is a mystery bag that I've just put together. I've just used like a tote bag. The best kind of bag would be like a drawstring bag, but I just don't have one to hand at the moment, because then it's kind of noosed at the top and they can reach their hand in a kind of smaller entrance, whereas this is quite open. But obviously there are ways to adapt it. So in here I've just put lots of really random items. It's always good, particularly with younger children, to use items that they already know the name of, or items that they use regularly that they're going to be familiar with. If you use items that they have seen before, that they've held and explored and they know the name of, then when they put their hand in here to kind of guess what it is, they're already going to have an idea of it. It is quite tricky, even for the youngest child, even for the oldest child, to figure out what it is. Basically, I'll stop waffling and I'll kind of explain how it works. So you fill the bag with lots of different items, you close up the top, and then the children, if you've got more than one, they take it in turns to kind of reach their hand in, have a feel about, and when they picked up something, they have to kind of use their senses to explore it and figure out what it is. And then they have to kind of guess what it is before they pull it out of the bag. So it's good to have items of different textures. So this is like a really soft felt pebble. It's good to have items that they have touched before. And so like this kind of thing, star. And they can, I mean, honestly, these mystery bags the learning opportunities are endless, and they're really, really fun because children love to search through bags and empty them and touch things, and they're really curious. So you might find if you're doing this with a younger toddler, it might be quite difficult, but just go with it because children are curious and they just want to know what's in there. So you might find that they pull it out before they've kind of explored it and told you what it is, and that's okay because if they're young, it's still going to be fun. They're still going to be exploring and using their senses. So just kind of cover it over, let them, ask them what it is, ask them to find something, hold it in their hand, tell you what it is, kind of have a feel of it. And if they pull it out before they tell you, that's totally okay. You can kind of work on that as they get older. They'll like the challenge of kind of naming it and figuring out what it is before they pull it out of the bag. So if you're starting this with a younger child, totally cool for them to just pull out items and then you can talk about them. So if you've got a younger child and they are doing that kind of thing where they're pulling it out of the bag before they're telling you what it is, then maybe put some things in there that they might not know the name of, because then when they pull them out, you can explore them and you can talk about how it feels and what do you think it looks like, and is it kind of hard or soft, and they can learn the name of it. So yeah, so just to give you an example, I've put a peg in there. You can use lots of natural items that you find in the garden. There's a little hammer, a comb, because that feels quite nice to touch. I've put a recorder in there, a little star kind of cookie cutter, and then what else is in there? Something really little. Yes, just a little kind of loose part, little semi-sphere, and that is it. So yeah, that is as simple as it is. It's literally a bag, fill it with loads of random stuff that they can explore. It's a really good sensory activity. Can you feel? What does it feel like? Box. More things?
Yeah.
You love a mystery bag, don't you? Is it your favourite? So this here is a homemade colour matching board. This literally took about 5 minutes to make, and you can make it with pretty much most things that you have in the house. If not, it's super duper cheap to make. And there are ways that you can adapt this for older children as well. This could be used from a really young age. If you've got a young baby that's into kind of exploring, which obviously all babies are, but they're chief kind of explorers and they love to explore their environment, especially anything tactile that they can touch and feel. So this is ideal. So this is made from just a piece of cardboard that I've cut out, and then these squares are made from felt. So if you don't have any felt and you want to do it with felt like this, then you can buy these anywhere for like a pack in like a craft place, like Hobbycraft, Amazon, The Works, you know, anywhere really. They're super cheap. If not, you could use coloured paper, you could use coloured fabric, you know, whatever you've got in the house. It doesn't need to be felt, but felt does have quite a nice texture, especially for young babies, and they're quite bright colours as well, and they're really easy to cut out in different shapes. And so I've cut out the squares and I've glued them on with PVA glue, and it's basically a matching activity. So they match up the colours, and then you can talk about the names of the colours, so that improves their kind of language as well. If you've got an older child that's kind of getting used to recognising letters and learning to read, you could then put the names on there as well. You could write red and purple, so then they can recognise the names of the words for the colours, you know, as they're completing the activity. But yeah, it's super simple. I'd pop it on the shelf as it is, and if it were a baby, they can just play around with them. You could just have the board on its own because they're stuck on, so they can't peel them off to eat them if it was a younger baby, and they can just feel them and play around with them and explore, you know, as babies love to do. This board you could also use, in my previous video I was talking about colour hunts. You can also make something like this and use it for colour hunts. So you could say, let's find red items, and then you can place them on the red square, and you can find blue items and place them on here.
You find red.
You want to find the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can you find the... So these are called cylinder blocks. This is a kind of mini version. You can get them full size, which kind of look a bit like this. But these are the smaller version. And these just came from Amazon. They do two different kinds, the kind of coloured ones or the neutral colour. If you've got a kind of younger child, I would start out with the colour if you want to, just because it's a little bit more of an easier introduction, because they can recognise sorting by colour before they sort the pieces by size. This is a visual sensory activity. They're figuring out size, shape, dimension, you know, based on what they can see, the size of the holes, and then they can see the cylinder blocks, the kind of depth of them. So the way to kind of introduce an activity like this would be to kind of invite them to come over and have a look at how it works. So you could show them initially. You can take all the little pieces out and put them next to the cylinder block, and then kind of put them all back in. And then a way to kind of scale this up to make it a little bit more tricky, if it's getting a bit easy for them, is to take out individual pieces. So it's not necessarily in order for them to then place them back. So yeah, this is quite a fun visual activity. My toddlers really enjoyed playing with these. They're not out in the playroom at the moment. They're one of our rotations, but yeah, there are many ways for them to learn and kind of build on their visual senses using this type of activity, so I totally recommend it. And they're pretty cheap as well. I mean, these just came from Amazon and they're solid wood. I don't think they're very expensive. I can link them below. So this one is really similar to the colour matching board, but this one is a texture board. So it's made up of all these different textures. Most of these little pieces you can find in your home, I'm sure. This one's a piece of sandpaper, and then just a piece of like soft woolly blanket. This is like a woven blanket, and then a bit of felt. This is some smooth plastic, and then we've got a bit of sponge. With this activity, they'll be using their sense of touch to feel the textures and figure out which ones match the loose pieces. So if you've got a younger child, you probably wouldn't want to use the little matching pieces because they might not be at the stage of being able to do that yet. So you could just use the board on its own as more of a kind of exploratory resource. They can feel all the textures. Obviously make sure they're stuck on properly so they don't come off and they start eating them. But yeah, they can just use it to kind of feel and explore, and then as they get to toddler age you can use it as more of a kind of matching activity. And then as they get a bit older, kind of a 2-3-year-old, they might start exploring letters, or even 4-year-olds, letters and words. That you can write the words on there, you know, rough, soft, the kind of textures, or you can go by the name of the fabric or materials. So you could say this is plastic, this is wool, this is sponge, you know, and you can write it all on there so that they can explore the words as well. So there's lots of different variations dependent on age, but it's a super cheap, easy activity which literally took me about 5 minutes, just using some, you know, bits that I found around the house. this is a really easy kind of sensorial kind of activity you could do at home. Sensory activities involve colour as well, and a really great way to do that is visually by matching colours. So these are some semi-spheres that I got from a company called Ticket Education. You can get these on Amazon, and you can get them direct if you search Ticket Education on Instagram. They've got a really great Instagram page. So yeah, they have different shades of colours that they can match up. You can talk about the names of the colours, and then they have these ones which are, it's like a big kind of button. You can also do kind of matching with these, and some of them are very similar colours as well. You'll see there's a kind of like a corally colour, and then like a fuchsia. So it's yeah, they're using their kind of visual senses to match them up and find the right one.
Get my finger.
So what colour is this one?
Green.
Green, yeah.
And this green.
That's a green too. So if you've ever heard of smelling bottles, they're another kind of Montessori resource. And I think a really cheap and easy way to make those bottles would be to use spice jars. The kind of things that you could put in smelling bottles would be anything really that you find in the garden. So we've got herbs, we've got some sage here, which has obviously quite a strong smell. You could use oregano, you can use basil, which has a really strong smell as well. Yeah, you can put these in these bottles. And the way to do it is to have 2 bottles for each smell. So you, for example, these would be 2 sage bottles, and then you might have 2 of basil, 2 of oregano, and then they have to use their sense of smell to match them up. So kind of, you okay, Mimi? Okay, bear with me. Yeah, so you could use these jars, and just make sure that anything that you put in them is big enough that it won't fall out of the hole here. Otherwise, you can use the ones with the little holes in, so they can still get the smell, or you can put a little bit of kind of like gauze or something, or a bit of cloth over there to kind of stop anything falling out. And then I'd also recommend sellotaping the lid on as well. You could glue it, but then you might struggle to get it off to empty out the content, so you can reuse it for a different smell. But yeah, this is really good for building on their sense of smell, and it's quite a fun activity as well. And if you've got something like a clove, which has a really strong smell, can I just look at that for a minute, Baba? Yeah, if you've got something like a clove which has a really strong smell, you want to smell that one, Mimi? What do you think?
Nice.
Nice. Yes, then they can shake it as well and listen to the sound. This is even a really great idea for younger children. You could use this kind of thing as a rattle, as long as you glue up on all the lid and everything so they can't access any of the contents. So cloves and seeds, mustard seeds, make a really good sound as a rattle. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I hope the activities are something that you're going to give a try whilst you're isolated. Yeah. Nearly finished now. Huh? Yeah, nearly. So yeah, I'll post a video again in a few days. Now that I'm not working, I'm going to try and do it as regularly as I can. So every couple of days sounds realistic. We'll see how we get on. So thanks for watching. Hope you're having fun with your families, and I'll see you in the next video.